Hey, old man, is there a chair open? Great. Yeah, I know it's been a while, but it's like crazy out there, just like you used to warn me. I know, but do me a favor, take your time, cause I'm in no rush, and just tell me those things you used to tell me when I was a little boy. Give me the usual. A little off the top stuff. What's so hard for life to make some sense, man? Making ends meet, can't get to sleep, so I'm worried. So, old friend, won't you lend me a hand? And I help the children try to understand. A little off the top. Don't stop. A little off the top.
A lot of schools in the Birmingham City school system are closing. I think it was, 7 or 8? Then you got Carver, MacArthur. I think a lot of parents are upset about the schools are closing.
I think it's bad, man.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think the educational system is so let down to closing all these schools. Cause Scott, I don't see why Scott was closing.
Well, I think they closed the schools because of the attendance, and I think they're looking at the way how bad the building, what kind of shape the building is. I think they're doing it like that, but I think a lot of parents are upset.
But what they're doing mostly black schools. You don't see.
Well, they're doing it in the Birmingham City school system. That's all. Most of our black schools in the Birmingham system. So it's not a racial thing or nothing like that.
You don't think so?
It can't be really because all the schools are black. Most of them, all of them in Birmingham system.
Where are these schools closing? In black neighborhoods.
Well,
that's all I'm looking at.
Oh, you looking at it? Well,
yeah, I'm looking at the neighborhoods where the schools are being closed. Scott, Carver,
MacArthur, Curry.
All of them is in black
some
neighborhoods.
Some of these schools are real old. Some of them are real old.
I can understand that. Carver is not a really old school.
Carver is old.
No, it's not. Carver wasn't built until Western Oldham was built.
Yeah. Well,
and I graduated in '57, and Carver was built behind Western Oldham.
Oh yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I guess
I know I'm older than you, man.
Yeah, you can look at that. You can look at that and tell you're a few days older now. What's up?
Hey, what's up, man? How's it going?
All right. Hey, how y'all doing?
Hey, you doing, lady?
Hey, good to see you again.
It's a lovely evening.
Yeah.
Made my day.
Made your day? Yeah, we was talking about the schools been closed. A lot of schools been closed around here, but you have to look at it on both sides, you know.
Well, you have to do that too, but
I think they're closing because the community want better schools, better buildings. I think they want buildings because of it.
I don't think so.
I wonder where all the money going that they supposed to have for these schools, for the education system.
Did you all go to any of the schools that are about to close?
I went to college.
Did you go to Carver?
Yeah.
So how does it make you feel being an alumni of Carver?
I just don't think no school should really be closing because, they're supposed to have the money. I don't see where they should mismanage the money for the schools to close.
Has it been a while since you've been inside Carver?
Yeah. Not really a while, but it was, the school's gonna get run down because people.
What up, Pete? What y'all up here doing?
Where you been, man?
Been chilling. What's up? What?
I went to the Branch Key. I didn't see you down there last night.
Yeah, what y'all talking about in here today?
Schools.
Schools.
Yeah.
Oh, man, y'all talking about I don't want to hear about these schools.
Why not?
Because I got other things on my mind.
Well, like what?
Look at it. Cut it out.
I guess you don't know it. Oh, you don't care about the schools or anything like that.
I ain't saying that, but I ain't trying to get off into that today. You know what I'm saying? We got company. We need to act right today.
Well, I mean,
well, you weren't acting right what you just did.
I gotta be me regardless. Wait a minute. You on TV? Yeah, what's up? How you doing? All right, yeah. I'm Kyle up in here. Yeah. Say straight up. You get paid a lot doing what you do.
Not nearly enough.
Straight up. I mean, y'all ain't got no fat Lexuses or nothing like that.
Well, some of us do.
Oh, straight up. Hey, give me the dirt on some of that stuff that go on in the news. I mean, do y'all be reading or y'all automatically know what's going on today? Tell me how
We're
y'all.
reading from the script, but somebody has to go out and get the information. So
Oh, y'all actually gotta go out and get it too?
some of us leave the building, not
Oh
everybody.
man, okay,
Yeah.
that's straight. Check
Yeah.
us out. When y'all go out, how come y'all only get them black folks with no teeth in their mouth to speak on camera? What's up with that?
Well, if that's their neighborhood, and if they are the ones who are the witness to whatever happened, that's who we talk to.
But they always the witness though. You know what I'm saying? They be that same one. That old lady with that green moo
Well, maybe she's the one that's always home.
She
looking out the
always-
window.
Hey, that is straight.
But think about some of the positive things in the news, really.
Like what?
There's a lot, I mean, the news, don't think about just all the bad things that
Yeah,
happen.
you're right. Let's think about the positive things. Like you married or something like that. You know?
Is that positive news?
It depends on what you say.
Well, you gonna put that on the
You're
headline,
close to
huh?
being married. Is this dude with you?
I'm with them.
So he must be famous. What's your name, man?
My name is Bill Singleton, Birmingham Schools.
Oh, look at you. You got a good job too.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I was famous though.
Oh, you're not
on
famous.
TV, my name's in paper. People don't match up. Face
Oh,
with my
okay.
name.
Well, you cool anyway. What's up? I'm Kyle, man. How you doing?
Pretty good.
What you write certain columns or what?
Yeah, I do a lot of things, do a lot of different stories. In fact, y'all talking about positive news. A lot of times we do positive news. In fact, I'm doing a story on this church group that does aftercare and does mentoring to a lot of students out in Metropolitan Gardens. So there's a lot
Are
of
you a
positive news
reporter?
going on. Yes.
Oh, okay.
What have you written? Maybe I read some of it.
I write all types of things: religion, city hall, courts, feature stories. We do a lot of good news.
Nothing in the sports section, huh?
No, not anything in the sports in particular. We got a lot of people to cover that though.
Oh, okay. So I probably gazed over you a couple times, but I'm sure whatever you write is good.
How long you been working with the news?
Oh, about 10 years.
Oh, so you
Have either of y'all ever covered a story that did something to y'all emotionally that makes you want to actually help?
Oh, all the time. As a matter of fact, I do a lot of volunteer work in the community because of stories that I've covered. But one thing that really bothers me, and I don't think people think about this, is anytime, like William said, he used to cover like cops and courts, and I used to have the police beat. And anytime you go into the black community and somebody's been killed, I mean, that bothers me because I'm a black person. And I hate going into our community over and over and over again and seeing young black people dead or going to jail for a crime. So that bothers me more than anything.
A lot of times also we have to do stories that involve tragedy, and no
Yeah,
one likes to ask
exactly.
people, how do you
Exactly.
feel to lose a loved one? But that's a part of the job. And what I try to do is be as sensitive as I possibly can in asking those questions. But at the same time, you have to ask them because there are a lot of people who want to know what's going on in the
Right.
community,
Right.
what's going on with that particular person.
Let me ask you a question, Melina. Who's the responsibility for what goes on in the news headline and what's not headline?
Well, that would be for newspaper, but I guess you're talking about with television, what would be the top story of the
Yeah.
night and so forth. See, we have an organization set up where there's a person called the assignment desk editor, so people will call her, or we may hear something over the police scanner, or people may send us a letter about different events going on. So that's how we know what's news. And see, we call breaking news or a top story whatever is happening at the moment or the big story of the day. Like, the couple of weeks ago when the mayor had his heart surgery, of course, that's the big news of the day. These school closings, that's the big news. So we try to decide what's real news by what is the most interesting or hot topic or ongoing topic for the day. Because you can watch us at 6 and 33, 40 and 42 all at the same time. We may all have the same big story of the day. We may have 4 different stories. People look at what's the big news of the day differently.
But you have to decide what can lead it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because you only have a few
What's up?
minutes. Exactly.
What's up, man?
What's up, man?
Because it's a news story. I heard on the radio, but I hadn't heard on TV or in the newspaper. I was going home one day and I heard about, I think it was a 16-year-old girl got raped by an 18-year-old. I think it's John Carroll.
The John Carroll High
John
School.
Harrell. I hadn't heard anything on TV. I might have been listening at the wrong station or whatever. I hadn't heard anything on TV about it, or I heard anything in the newspaper. And I was wondering why something like that hadn't reached the news.
Well, sometimes we haven't heard about it. And then a lot of times, you know, with television, I tell people this all the time, my job is harder than Bill's because he can just pick up the phone, you know, and interview somebody over the phone and type up his story. But I have to actually go out with a photographer and get people to talk to me on camera and get the pictures. And, you know, a lot of times people don't put that camera in my face, don't be coming over here. So that makes my job harder. So if we have to do a story like that that's very sensitive and people don't want to talk about it, if they're minors, we can't give their names, it's harder to tell that story.
Right. When y'all go up and like do those interviews, do those folks be cussing y'all out sometimes? Cause you know they edit that. We don't get to see that. Do y'all get to see that?
No, you'd be surprised. Most people want to be on television.
Oh, really?
So, you know, we really don't usually have a problem getting
You ain't
somebody
never
on.
got cussed out of nothing.
I'm sure I have.
Okay. I just wanted to know.
Isn't there sometimes that if you go up to a person's home, do they shut the door in your face? and
It will. It
stuff
depends
like
on what the
that?
story is.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's a negative story, they don't want to be on. And sometimes we do what we call the ambush interviews, where we know you don't want to talk, we'll just walk up on you anyway, hoping that we can get something. But most of the times, we can call people in advance and let them know we're coming out. You know, it just depends on what you're talking about today, what the story's about.
Hey, you work with the news, right?
Yes.
I get a hookup
Oh, I
on
wait,
that.
let him, she's gonna cut across with him.
But you're trying to get a free paper.
Yeah, inside story, you know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to get that Sunday thing
job
going on.
hook up in terms of newspaper.
You know what I'm saying? Just the newspaper, you know what I'm saying? I want no
Well, see, I don't
job.
handle that. We have a big department there.
Give him a
We have
bicycle
circulation.
and some papers.
But you ain't got the inside scoop though. You can call one of your boys that's down there and distributing and you know,
Hey, man.
drop a couple of them by my house, you know, just
Some of the
Saturday.
people in distributing, I don't even know.
You can't hook me
That's-
up,
that's
so
a
you
big
ain't got
This
no
man
power.
right, man.
That's like the government. There are a whole bunch of people in that building.
Oh, man.
Government.
You need to drop this one. That's what I'm saying. He ain't
Ms.
got no
Cunningham, let me
hookup.
ask you a serious question here, man. Most of the news though that I hear, a lot of time I just stop watching it because I get kind of disgusted. It is negative, but you know there are many more positive stories that are out there that aren't being heard. I mean, how do y'all deal with that? Is it just because that negative news sells more commercials, or is it the business? I mean, I always wanted to ask that question, and I wanted to hear it from someone who's in that business.
Well, there's a lot of positive news out there, and we do our best to cover it, but you gotta remember with a 30-minute newscast, part of that goes to sports, part of that goes to weather, and then
Right.
part of that is commercial. So really, you're only getting about 6 minutes of news every day, so we have to squeeze as much in as we can. You know, it's unfortunate, but it seems like the negative is what people listen to. If we were to do a positive story, say we came in and did a story on this barbershop, the people who would be interested in watching it are the people who are in here and your families. You know,
Right.
people who don't know you all, they're not that interested, you know. It's stories about you and what you've done. Positive news and good things that happen to people, only the people it's
You ain't
happening
trying to
to.
diss me.
Well,
It's
No,
let
that's
me
right.
add to that too.
Yeah, okay.
Let me add to that, because a lot of times people think that everybody in the newspaper business on TV, we know automatically what's going on.
Exactly, and we
And a
don't.
lot of times we don't, and that good news has to be brought to us.
Right.
Unfortunately, we have police scanners and we have tapped into the community when those bad things happening, and that's why
Right.
you see a lot of times television reporters and newspaper reporters immediately on the scene.
Right.
But if there's a situation, for example, a story I did where this black kid from Inslee won a $32,000 scholarship. Well, nobody told me about that. I just happened upon that
Right.
at a council meeting one
Right.
time. It was buried
Right.
in the council agenda, which I thought that was good news, but no
Right.
one said anything
Right.
about that. So
Right.
sometimes it's accessibility. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, the bad news is more accessible than a lot of the good
Right.
news because people take it for granted that
Right.
if they know about this, then we should know about that. And things are brought to us, and that's what we call tips. People
Okay.
bring interesting
And
news
then a
to
lot of
us.
times people will tell me, well, I didn't think you all would put it on TV. Well, you know, you
Yeah.
never know.
Yeah.
But
Well, come on now. I mean, it's been times like, okay, now they got shows now where they just show cops out on the streets, arresting people, and the majority of people you see that are being arrested are from our community. They're not showing. They're not going to the source and showing where, if it's a drug-related incident, where that's happening. It seems like the media just focused in.
So now you're talking
on
about
one
shows
area.
like Cops and things like that?
I mean, all of that.
Well, see, that's
part of the media.
really entertainment. That's
Right.
not news. What they do is take a little snippet from the news of a car chase or an arrest. But you know what? People are watching it. They tune into that. I know people, even in my family, who will quote me stuff that they saw. And because there's an interest, that's why they show it. It's just like bloopers and anything else. If there's an interest, they will have it on.
Right.
You have to also understand the legality of that also. You know, unfortunately, a lot of people say, well, why don't you go to find a drug dealer or take the drug dealers home? We know this person is a drug dealer. Well, you can't put that on TV and let it be convicted.
Exactly.
Otherwise, we're looking at a libel suit.
Yeah,
You know, you may know it,
Exactly.
but we may not know it. And then a lot of people want to identify people, but they don't want their names on the record. Unfortunately, we can't operate
So,
like that.
so in other words, what you're telling me then is the whole video is somewhat censored. That there are things that can make a story the realism of a story, but because of the legalities and things of that nature, you may not be able to report the whole truth of the matter. So most people may not hear or see only what's half true.
But I don't think censored is the right word. I mean, what if somebody came up to me and said, you know, what's your name?
Barry.
Barry is selling drugs. He's dealing drugs, and I know. Well, this could be somebody that has a vendetta against you. If I went on the news tonight and said Barry is selling drugs, I have ruined your reputation, your life, you know.
Exactly.
And like Bill was saying, unless you have gone to court and actually been convicted in a court of law, that's the only way we can go on the air and say you're a drug dealer.
Well, that's true. That's the code of ethic. But then the same thing too about what's the guy name in Atlanta that they said set the bomb off? Richard Jewell. Richard Jewell.
Yeah.
But he didn't do it. But the media crucified the man before he did it. So I mean,
only
it's
because
always
the FBI leaked to the media that he was a prime suspect. We never would have known otherwise that he was a suspect.
So we just took it. We assumed that the FBI was telling the truth.
I
We didn't
mean-
check into it ourselves. We just jumped right on it.
I think one thing the media always use, allege.
Oh, you have to, because
That's one of their favorite.
that's when we can be sued.
Yeah.
But you remember also, if you recall, Richard Jewell also sued one of the television stations
Yeah,
too.
he got a lot of
And I
money.
think there was a settlement in that
Yeah.
also. So
$500
that
million.
proves that you have to be careful in doing something like that too. Just because somebody leaks information to you doesn't mean that you
I got an important question that's about news. I mean, like say if I was to find like $20 in somebody else's purse, you know what I'm saying? Would y'all cover that as good news?
How can you find
Kyle,
$20 in
Kate
somebody
usually
else's
was
purse and
$20,
that'd be good news?
I mean, cause I was happy than a mug when I found it though, you know what I'm saying? Cause I was real happy, I was ecstatic cause I was broke.
First, it was lost from probably. wasn't
Well, I think I ought to give it back to you then, huh?
I
That's what you're saying?
I can use it if it was mine.
It was yours, you know. I just got you
I
right quick
appreciate
when you
your
looked
honesty.
over there, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just here. So since you appreciate my honesty, what's up for later on?
Kyle.
Oh, man, come on, man, quit your video. Player hater.
Man, you always come
She all up in here, I can't help that.
Yeah, well,
She all up in mine.
She on your ground now.
No doubt.
But, you know, seriously though, I've always, those have been burning questions in my mind, because I remember watching the Desert Storm.
He's knocking you.
And to listen to, you know, some of the reports, and then listen to, like my girlfriend was she was in Desert Storm. And she told me some of the realism of the things that were going on. And I was like, man, I watched this stuff like I was watching a movie. I watched it every day. I didn't know this was going on. I didn't know all these people were really getting killed, you know, and things like that. And it seems like there's always something above the media that's controlling what goes on television. I mean, I know y'all work within ethics and codes, but the receiver, the people on the other end of the TV, it's always seems like it's left up to them to decide what really happened.
Bill, right?
Yes.
I got a question about the newspaper. Who be writing those, what you call them, horoscopes? And how they be knowing what you gonna do? You know what I'm saying? Cause that be tripping me out. I be like reading that right, you know, and it say today you gonna get a job, whatever, you know what, and it be right sometimes.
Well, that comes from syndication. Somebody sends that.
Straight
in.
up.
Yeah, it's not anybody from Birmingham.
It ain't like nobody be calling Dion and asking her what's gonna happen and y'all just write it down and
No,
print it.
not at all.
Oh, okay. That's straight though. I like that. Whoever do it, just tell them I said it's tight. I like
See,
that.
like, I went to the Million Man March,
I did too.
and I was there, but when I got back to the hotel, you know, I seen a whole different story from what actually, you know, went on in a sense. And I felt like, from then on, I felt like everything is kind of, you know, the government ain't gonna let y'all know what they want y'all to know. Like, I was watching they trying to say like the airplane that got blew up. They said a Navy boat was in the vicinity of that. You know, certain things I feel like they gonna want y'all to know. Only certain things they gonna let y'all know.
We don't getting back to the Million Man March. I was the only TV person from Birmingham that went. I think you all sent somebody from the news, or what, Birmingham News, since Solomon was up there. But it depends on who was covering the story. I mean, here I was, a woman among all these men.
Sure
Was up there covering it.
enough.
And my perspective will probably be different from yours because I'm not a man. And then the white reporters who covered it probably had a different perspective because they're not black. They probably didn't expect that many black people to come, and they probably didn't expect it to be as surreal and serene and spiritual as it was. Because I know when I was doing my live shots from Washington, we had a white anchor man who kept asking me, you know, how was the crowd? As if, you know, there was gonna be a mob scene.
Yeah.
And they were just so stunned to hear that so many people came, and it was just such a nice, pleasant, positive experience.
Well, they even downplayed it, because they even said that there weren't a million men. You know, they was downplaying it all night. Yeah, right.
But
Yeah,
see, you know,
right.
you can look, that's one of the cases
Yeah.
where you can look at the pictures from TV and tell,
Yeah.
that there were definitely at least a million people,
Oh,
there,
it
if
was.
not more.
And if you think about it, there were times when people were moving in to areas that people were moving out of areas. So it continuously stayed packed. And then there were people on the expressway who never made it to it.
And people who were behind the Capitol that the
Oh,
camera
yeah.
didn't get a picture of.
Right.
So.
You know, numbers are always controversial too, because, you know, who's going to be able to give an accurate figure as to a million people?
I'm glad you said that, because numbers are controversial. So speaking of numbers, you know, why don't you just slide it to me, you know what I'm saying? We can talk about some news
It's
issues.
unlisted.
That's what
Kyle,
I'm saying. I
have
want you to
respect
look
for
at
women in business, please.
Man, my bad.
This, okay?
He's knocking you.
Well, listen, I think a lot of people listen to, you know,
Come on now.
radio, they listen to TV, and
okay.
listen to, look at the news, and they really think what you say, they really believe it. Some people really believe what, especially the newspaper, I say it like the newspaper. They read it and they really think it's true, but sometimes it's not. It's not true.
Well, a lot of times we're trying to gather as much truthful information as we possibly can. And if we can document something, then we try to do that. But a lot of times when you're dealing with issues of he said versus she said, or this person against that person, like in a court argument, sometimes people will not tell you the truth. And we're going by what they say, even though that may be a part of a document. So
Well,
I don't think there's an attempt to be deceptive in so much as it's probably that we're getting the information and that person could be lying to us, and
But-
we don't have any way to verify that.
And you know, an incident can happen, all of us in this room could see it, but if we were to tell the story back to somebody else, all of us are gonna have different perspectives as to how we saw, what we remember, what we didn't remember. And like William said, you know, all we can do is go by what you said you
Right.
saw.
Yeah, but sometimes.
Let me ask you another question. It's kind of, as a black woman in television, in the media, and I'm referring back to something you said earlier when you was talking about when you covered the Million Man March and you was one of the only people from Birmingham that went. But being in that arena and in that, how does that make you feel like you're still struggling? Because I know you probably felt awkward in a way. You know, I know you're a reporter, but you probably felt awkward because it was all men, and then you had people coming up to you asking questions about it. But as a black female in business and doing what you do, are there major struggles, or the glass ceiling still exists for you, or how is it?
Oh, yeah, the glass ceiling definitely exists. And then, unfortunately, our business is a cosmetic business. I mean, you know, not only do we have to have talents, but it's
Right.
also based on how you look and then how you speak. And so we have a lot of things that we have to be even better at than some of our colleagues, unfortunately. But no, going back to the Million Man March, no, I did not feel awkward. As a matter of fact, I was glad I was there to witness such a positive event because, unfortunately, because of movies and some videos that show the negative side of,
Yeah.
you know, the hood, so to
Yeah.
speak, a lot of people feel that if 3 or 4 or 5 black men get together, then it's going to be a problem.
We're not dealing with jerks like Kyle.
Well,
Okay. All right, you know how like you watch the news and everybody is so articulate, you know. How come don't none of the black folks talk like, black folks? You know what I'm saying? That's all I want to know.
How does
You didn't answer my question.
What you mean by black folks?
I mean, you know what I'm saying? How come talking, and don't nobody be like, well, what's up? Y'all don't get no shout outs or nothing. I ain't never heard
We
one of
say
y'all
that
say
for the radio.
Yeah, I know. He the one that stand behind the camera jumping up and down making faces.
They gonna think you said shout out. They gonna think somebody got shot. Somebody got their car shot off.
I ain't never seen nobody say, I like to thank my baby daddy for making this possible. I just wanted to know.
They want to stay on TV.
I think it's important that the blacks are in the media, and a lot of times some of my friends kid me and saying you with the white establishment, but we have to set a standard and be role models. Because I remember covering when I first got to the paper, I was covering a suburban meeting, and I was the only black there. And a woman walked up to me and said, "Could you turn the air conditioner down?" And I said, "I'm a reporter, thank you." And I gave an impression to her that there was a black person who was not a janitor or some custodian, but a reporter. And so we need to have our influence known both inside our jobs and outside.
It's funny you mentioned that because the day I was at the Classic, and we were standing next to one of the entry gates, and this lady, the young lady I was with, this lady just walked up to us and started telling us about the guy she's going to let in. She said, "I just want to make sure it's okay." We said, "Yeah, it's cool." I mean, we had going up there too. And so, it was just automatically, she thought we were there working.
What classic? I'm sorry, what classic?
The Bruno's Classic, golf classic today. But
William does bring up a good point because, like you said, there's so many people who really don't expect a black person to be there. Because there are many times I've been the only black person, regardless of the fact that I was, and sometimes the only woman, and people didn't expect me to be intelligent. They'll figure, oh, well, she's on TV because she's cute,
Right.
But when I can think and ask questions and speak intelligently, then it's like they look at me totally different. You have to have that respect. But then I think the people in the community, particularly people like William and myself, we're very active in our community. So it's like we don't have to give a shout out to our baby daddy because we know who we are. You know who we are. And until we own the TV station, then we do have to follow certain rules of business.
Right.
Now the people on BET, are they shouting out to their baby daddy, baby mama?
But the people on BET, are they really? You know what I'm saying? Because that one brother, he just as light as
Well, we come in all shapes,
you know what I'm
sizes,
saying?
and colors, so
it's hard to tell with him because he got them thin lips too. Can't taste no barbecue.
Walter, what do you think? I heard y'all was mentioned when I first walked in. I was kind of talking about schools and things. What do you think about that? I mean, how do you?
I think it's ridiculous because I think Birmingham school system can clean up the educational system. Whoever is in charge, and I don't know who the superintendent is.
And don't stop. Just a little off the top, pop. Don't stop with the knowledge like college, graduating with honors. And you've been there, done that degree. Now bless the ones proud, forgive the arrogant me. I admit I was blind, yo, put me up to see. Yo, whatever you charge, it's alright with me. Give me a little off the